What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for October 6, 2023. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far before Fastlane tonight. Shaping up to be a solid show. Only 5 matches advertised, actually, so it's not really the most stacked show they've had in recent memory, but one thing I've learned from WWE this year in particular is to never doubt their premium live events. They've typically put on pretty good shows when it comes to these monthly pay-per-views, so I'm looking forward to tonight. As far as this being a go-home show, it wasn't the strongest go-home show. The overall build to Fastlane heading into tonight has been pretty weak, but I did think this was a quality show overall, so some last-minute thoughts on SmackDown before the pay-per-view tonight. We open up the episode with LA Knight speaking, very briefly anyway, before being interrupted by Solo Sikoa, Jimmy Uso, Paul Heyman. They're still labeling all 3 of them as the Bloodline, is WWE. I'm not going to, because I don't think Jimmy Uso is officially back in the Bloodline. They'll probably make that clear next week on SmackDown when Roman Reigns returns. But going into the match graphic for this match tonight at the pay-per-view, they're calling them the Bloodline, which is weird. But anyway, they interrupted LA Knight, kind of talking about how LA Knight is the future of WWE. And Paul Heyman, interestingly, did not take a shot at LA Knight. He actually even said the fastest rising star in WWE right now, like the hottest thing going, is LA Knight. And at first it looked like he was going to motion his Solo Sikoa. Instead, he shifted his focus to LA Knight. I'm not sure if that's something that Roman Reigns would take exception to at some point, heading into the inevitable LA Knight Roman Reigns match, whenever that might be, and hopefully not a crown jewel. I would not rush into it on that show. AJ Styles and Roman Reigns makes a lot more sense for when AJ comes back from his storyline injury. But anyway, this was good stuff, though, before the Bloodline, quote-unquote, could attack LA Knight. John Cena making the save, setting up our main event for the night. Not the tag team match that's obviously happening at Fastlane, but rather LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso one-on-one. We did have a tag team match on the show that saw Charlotte Flair and Asuka take on Damage CTRL's Bayley and Io Sky. My top takeaway from this match is that Bayley fucking loses all the time. Like, she loses a lot. And I know she's Bayley, she's established, she's been around, she doesn't really lose anything from these losses. She's a heel. Not that she doesn't have credibility, but she loses so often. Like, can they not give this woman a win? I don't understand that. Charlotte and Asuka won the match following a pretty weak finish, with Charlotte hitting the natural selection on Bayley. Just did not look great. This was not a great match. It was all right for what it was. Some kind of weak moments despite the amount of talent involved in this thing. There was some dissension, the obvious can they coexist bullshit with Asuka and Charlotte. They were able to coexist. They didn't, brawl afterward or anything, but they're clearly not on the same page, which they shouldn't be because they will be opponents tonight at the pay-per-view and not tag team partners. But they did win here. If anyone was going to take the loss, it's Bayley. She's not in the Women's Championship tonight, the Women's Championship match tonight, that is. I understand why she would lose. It makes sense for her to lose, but I guess it just kind of goes to show they need Dakota Kai back soon. Not to put this all in Dakota Kai, but Dakota would be taking, I guarantee you, a majority of the losses for Damage CTRL, which is part of the reason why the group needs to break up. I mean, Io, I'm glad she's not losing and getting pinned. She lost the match, but she didn't get pinned here. She would be better off on her own. The Damage CTRL shit at this point is accomplishing nothing. And hopefully Kairi Sane being back soon might change that. I don't know if that's when they would pull the trigger on the breakup or wait until Dakota Kai comes back. I don't know. We had Bobby Lashley one-on-one with Rey Mysterio on the show. Quite a good match between these two. Only the 3rd match these two have ever had one-on-one in WWE. I know they had one match when Bobby, I think it was when, I don't know, someone came back. I think it was Bobby had returned from a short hiatus in 2019, beat Rey in like a minute or two. They may have had they obviously had another match beyond that. And I don't think it was back in like 05 or 06 or 07. It might have been, it was obviously in the last couple of years. I'm just not sure when it would have been. But the rematch here was quite good. I thought they worked well together. The classic David versus Goliath dynamic. Having a pretty fun match here. Rey Mysterio ended up losing the match after all the chaos at ringside with Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro being just demolished by Bobby and the Profits, thus taking them out of the 6-man tag team match tonight. Not that they were ever officially advertised, but heading into the matchup, it was said any 3 members of LWO could face Bobby and the Profits at Fastlane tonight. Backing up my prediction from a week ago. I see everyone saying it now on social media heading in tonight, and the guy even made it obvious on his own Twitter earlier today. But it's clearly Carlito. I was thinking it would have been Dragon Lee. He made the most sense because Dragon Lee was on the show, and I figured why would they have Dragon Lee on SmackDown the day before a pay-per-view if they weren't going to have him team with Rey and with Rey and Santos Escobar. You have to have Rey and Santos in the match. It can't be Wild or Toro. No one gives a shit about those guys. It has to be Rey and Santos. Who their partner was either Dragon Lee or Carlito. I figured Dragon Lee made the most sense. Carlito was a long shot because we haven't seen him back yet in WWE beyond the Backlash appearance in May. That was many months ago. Clearly, he's been signed for a while. They just haven't come up with a creative plan for him, but this would be the best way to introduce him tonight, would be to have him team with Rey and Santos. Win or lose, he will be in that match, which is pretty cool. So, Rey made a comment later on in the show that he's making a phone call to a partner. He's got to put out a phone call or put out feelers and make a phone call to figure out who he's teaming with tonight alongside Santos. And it's not going to be Zelina Vega. Zelina even said, I would love to get in that ring, but it's a 6-man tag team match, not a 6-person tag team match. And Bobby would probably crush her anyway, so it's probably for the best. This was good stuff, though. I'm assuming probably next week, I would think either on SmackDown, because they're billing that as the season premiere. If this was the season finale of SmackDown, it wasn't the most exciting episode. It was a good show, but far from the season finale you would typically get from your ordinary television show. I would imagine they might announce it later that we will get Bobby challenging Rey for the United States Championship. I wouldn't take the belt off of Rey and put it right back on Bobby, who's already held it 3 times, but that would be a logical match to do for that show. And it is worth noting, too, Bobby had missed like 5 months of in-ring action. This marked his first match on SmackDown since May, in almost exactly 5 months. He actually last wrestled at a house show in June, but that was many months ago. So I'm glad to see him back in the ring on this show and again at Fastlane on Saturday night. Like I mentioned, we had Dragon Lee in the ring on this show, and I guess he's not interacting with the LWO after all, because it was interesting. They didn't announce the Rey and Santos thing, that we need a partner, we're going to make a phone call, until after this was over. So I'm thinking that Rey will interact with Dragon Lee after this matchup, but then I thought otherwise when we saw Cameron Grimes get involved in this match and thwart the interference of Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller was at ringside halfway through, trying to interfere and distract Dragon Lee. Cameron Grimes came out, who lost to Theory last week and has been bullied by Waller and Theory in the past on SmackDown, came into the aid of Dragon Lee and helped him win the match. It was a very good match, I thought, another great showcase for Lee. The crowd wasn't as into this match as they were for Dragon and Dominic Mysterio last week on Raw, but still a good match, and Dragon Lee won, which was great. His first match on SmackDown, a success. So that kind of gave away to me Dragon Lee is not teaming with Rey and Santos at Fastlane, because otherwise, why would he have an ally in Cameron Grimes and not Rey or Santos or whatever? So anyway, this kind of felt like, to me, like the official introduction of Dragon Lee to SmackDown. They aired the video package for him last week, but we saw the same video package, and they aired the same video package for him on Raw a week and a half ago when he challenged Dominic for the North American Championship. Now, he was not on NXT this week, and he was at No Mercy when he was the special guest referee for Dominic and Trick. I still say he should beat Dominic for that championship, but if he's not going to be in NXT, that's probably not happening. The word now, per The Observer, I believe, is that he's officially a part of the main roster. I don't know if that's set in stone or not, but I'm not complaining. Dragon Lee is great. If he's having a short stint in NXT and now he's already on the main roster, that's not a bad thing. The guy is talented enough to get over on his own on the show. Regardless of who he has an ally in, he can definitely get over on his own and be a success on the show if booked properly. That is the main takeaway and the main point to make here, the bottom line. He's got to be booked properly. Unlike Kalisto and Sin Cara, and those guys had their faults as well. Every, luchador does, or every superstar does, really. But it all comes down to the booking, and hopefully they can book him well and make him a star. And just like that, we were already at the main event. LA Knight taking on Jimmy Uso, a pretty average main event. The crowd was super behind LA Knight throughout the match. That was really what made the match. Otherwise, this wasn't much out of the ordinary. But Knight did end up picking up the win via disqualification following interference from Solo Sikoa. That brought out the Judgment Day, who were also on the show. We saw Rhea Ripley interacting with Paul Heyman backstage earlier in the episode, and she told Paul, "Acknowledge me," saying that she's the leader of Judgment Day and she's kind of taking charge, and they teased a working relationship with Judgment Day and the Bloodline, which is funny because they've done this before a number of months ago, and the Bloodline delivered on their promise. The Judgment Day did not, and nothing ever came of that, of course, in typical WWE fashion. I would love if they brought that back up again here, and they had said, listen, you guys didn't hold up your end of the bargain a number of months ago. Why would we want to work with you? And the answer might be, well, the Bloodline's in shambles right now. You guys need us more than we need you. So we're kind of trying to work out a working relationship of sorts. To where it leads, I don't know. And the suspicion now among fans is that this might culminate in a War Games match. So getting back to the post-match angle, Cena made the save for Knight, and then the Judgment Day jumped on the apron. It was like 6-on-2. And then out comes Jey Uso, out comes Cody Rhodes, which shouldn't really be much of a surprise. I'm looking at the clock, and the show ended at like 9:52, and I'm thinking, where the fuck is, where's Cody Rhodes? Where's Jake? Because they were already advertised for this show. So then they come running out, and they counteract the Judgment Day and the Bloodline, quote-unquote. Solo did nothing. He walked off with Paul Heyman. So it was really Finn, Dominic, Damian, JD McDonough, and Jimmy Uso. So I guess it was 5-on-4 unless one of those Judgment Day guys wasn't there. I don't remember. But basically, the babyfaces got the better of the heels, with all the babyfaces taking turns hitting their finishers on JD McDonough, whether it be the Attitude Adjustment, 5-knuckle shuffle, the BFT, a super kick, and the crossroads from Cody Rhodes. So a great babyface celebration to go off the show here. The crowd ate this shit up. It was a great ending to a good show. But the ending alone, not even the main event itself, but that ending was like something you would see, I don't want to say in the Attitude Era, but like these guys are so over. All four of them, Cody, Jay, LA Knight, and John Cena. Those are your top four babyfaces right now, right alongside, of course, Seth Rollins. But WWE has a lot of great babyfaces. The problem is they don't have a lot of great heels. They got Roman Reigns, and the well runs dry beyond him. So then the question becomes, again, a couple different things here. How does Roman Reigns react next week? How does he react to the Judgment Day Bloodline working relationship? How does he react to Jimmy Uso now wanting back in the Bloodline? Who's next in line to face Roman Reigns? I still say it's AJ Styles. We haven't seen AJ on the show in a few weeks. It makes sense for him to be on the show and challenge Roman at Crown Jewel. Do not rush into LA Knight and Roman Reigns right now. Save that for either Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble. I know David said he had taken back what he had said on Observer Radio a couple days ago. But he had made the comment, it makes the most sense to do John Cena and Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. I mean, the Saudi Prince might want that fucking match. I don't want to see that match. I'm sure other people do. I don't know if I'm the minority, but we've already seen that match twice. Once 6 years ago, and again in 2021, and neither match, as good as they were not barn burners. We do not need to see it a third time. And the only reason why we would need to see it a third time is if John Cena was winning. And he's not winning, and he should not win. So why do the match? And it probably wouldn't even be as good as now as it was 2 years ago. John Cena is only getting more and more, I don't want to say washed in the ring, but he's kind of clearly taking a step down and becoming a shell of his former self in the ring. I do not need to see him and Roman Reigns again. Save John Cena for the fresher matches. I would rather see John Cena face and put over Solo Sikoa in Saudi Arabia or at Survivor Series or wherever. Maybe at WrestleMania, but John Cena's advertised for that Saudi Arabia show, so I would just have him put over Solo Sikoa there. And if Cena's at Mania next year, save him for something else. But anyway, we had the baby faces go over here. And like I mentioned, the other, or kind of stand tall to close the show, the other idea was, what does this mean for War Games if we're getting it? And Triple H is another one. They're advertising him for next week's show on the season premiere of SmackDown, as they're calling it. Roman Reigns will be on. Triple H will make an appearance. They didn't say an announcement. They have a lot of fucking announcements right now with Cody Rhodes appearing in NXT. That whole debacle. They actually are teasing now The Undertaker for NXT. They closed out the NXT commercial for Tuesday with a gong noise, and Taker will apparently be at the Performance Center next week. So they're really loading up that show opposite of Dynamite, which is just funny in retrospect. Not even in retrospect, it's just funny to think about that. They're loading up their developmental show to beat Dynamite. I mean, I know Dynamite's coming to their night. It's just funny. I don't hate it. I think it's cool. I'm going to enjoy both shows. It's not a bad thing for fans. It's a one-night-only thing. And it's going to force them to put together a good show for NXT. And NXT typically is a good show, but specifically this week coming up, it's going to be a pretty loaded episode. Taker and John Cena on NXT, I never thought I would see the day. It's just funny. But as far as War Games goes, will Triple H announce a War Games match next week? I don't think so. I mean, why would they have him? What is the point of advertising an appearance from Triple H if we don't know what's even happening at Fastlane before it happens? Does that make sense? We don't know what the War Games match would even look like, so why would Triple H, they would announce his appearance to announce a War Games match if we don't know if that's where this is going? It would just be weird to me. I mean, I don't know what he's doing on the show. He might just be there to say hi and then leave. That would be fucking stupid, but I wouldn't put it past them. if they are doing a War Games match, I stick with what I said earlier as far as keeping it exclusive to the Raw guys. I don't think the Bloodline needs to be in it. Cena does not need to be in War Games. I would do what I've already suggested. All of the Judgment Day and JD McDonough and Drew McIntyre, who by then might be a full-on, full-blown heel, and even if not, he might be more of a tweener, against the babyface side of Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, and Kevin Owens. To me, that makes the most sense. Interjecting, the Bloodline in there for no fucking reason, that to me would just be dumb. Maybe it's possible. Maybe they do a typical, traditional Survivor Series match on that show instead of War Games. Maybe we're not even getting War Games. I don't know. Maybe we're getting both. Maybe we get War Games in Saudi Arabia and then a traditional elimination match, which would seem redundant at Survivor Series. I don't know, but just an idea. Either way, that's SmackDown for this week and next week. So in addition to Roman and Triple H, they're also advertising the in-ring return of Pretty Deadly after being put on the shelf a few months ago by the Brawling Brutes. They're facing the Brawling Brutes next week on SmackDown, so that should be a good match. And like I said, do not be surprised if they add a United States Championship match to the show. Rey and Bobby, the rematch after Bobby beat Rey on this show. So keep an eye out for that. But I like SmackDown this week. I thought it did a nice job of setting the stage for Fastlane tonight, which should be a solid show. More thoughts on that pay-per-view coming to WrestleRant Radio next Thursday and in written form over at WrestleRant.com in the midst of a rebrand right now, a relaunch of the website, so keep an eye out and hope you enjoy. Thank you guys for checking out my SmackDown review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.